Do you want to tell the underwear story, or do you want me to?
I don't remember the underwear story. You tell it. Go ahead. Maybe I'll remember what you're talking about as you go along.
All right.
This is the Book of Life. I'm Heidi Rabinowitz. The Sidney Taylor Book Award recognizes the best Jewish literature for children and teens each year. I spoke to the 2018 chair of the committee, my friend Susan Kusel, to hear about this year's winners. Be sure to visit bookoflifepodcast.com for links to the full list of winners and to some of the other awards that we mention in the interview. So, Susan, you are the chair of the Sidney Taylor Book Award Committee. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a librarian at Temple Rodef Shalom, which is in Falls Church, Virginia, right outside Washington, D.C. And then I also am a children's book buyer and selector for a store in Maplewood, New Jersey called Words. I've been on a lot of award committees before, including the 2015 Caldecott Medal Committee, and this is my third year on the Sidney Taylor Award Committee, and I am also a board member on the Association of Jewish Libraries.
All right. You keep very busy.
A little bit, yeah.
Susan, we're here today to learn about the 2018 winners of the Sidney Taylor Book Award. But first, please explain, what is the Sidney Taylor Book Award?
The Sidney Taylor Book Awards are given by the Association of Jewish Libraries to the best children's and teens Jewish books of the year. And we have three categories: younger, older, and teen. Younger is usually picture books. Older is middle grade. And then we have teen, which is young adult, and older middle school and high school.
And who was Sidney Taylor? Who's this award named for?
Sidney Taylor is the author of a series of books, beginning with All of a Kind Family. The awards today are actually sponsored by Sidney Taylor's daughter, Jo Taylor Marshall. What's really cool about All of a Kind Family is that for a lot of people, it was the first books that they found outside of Bible stories that featured Jewish characters. It really mainstreamed the Jewish family for so many people. And it's a story of an immigrant family growing up on the Lower East Side, but the stories are so relatable and so wonderful, episodic, and they're relevant today and can be read anytime. I love reading them.
Okay, so we've got these three age group categories. Let's start young and then grow up. So tell us about the winner in the younger readers category.
I'm trying to not say I'm so excited every time, because there's a lot of books that I'm just so excited about. So the winner of the younger category is a story called The Language of Angels, a story about the reinvention of Hebrew. It's by Richard Michelson, illustrated by Carla Gudian. Oh, I just love this book. It talks about why does everyone in Israel speak Hebrew as opposed to Yiddish or German or any number of languages that they could be speaking. Because originally people spoke Hebrew mainly, for prayers. So how did we get from that to a country where everyone is speaking Hebrew all the time? And Richard Michelson just takes us through that whole process through the eyes of a child. The wonderful folk illustrations match the story perfectly. It's just a beautiful, exciting book. This is a totally new topic that we have never seen in a picture book. It's very masterfully told. Richard Michelson has written several other Sidney Taylor books. He's written a Sidney Taylor winner before, and he actually won a Sidney Taylor honor book last year for a book called Fascinating about the life of Leonard Nimoy. And so he's just a very skilled writer. And the illustrator has been honored by Sidney Taylor Awards as well for Hanukkah Haiku. And so they just kind of came together here and delivered this beautiful package.
So Richard Michelson, as you mentioned, has won recognition from the Sidney Taylor Book Award before at all different levels. He's won gold, he's won silver, he's had books named as notable books. So what did he say when you told him that Language of Angels was the gold medalist this year?
Well, actually, I messed with him a little bit. So he owns a gallery, and he exhibits a lot of children's book illustrators. And he's located in Massachusetts, and our next conference is going to be in Boston. So we had already been talking to Richard Michelson, and we had been asking him, would he speak for this session or that session? And so I called him and I said, Rich, I was wondering if I could ask you a favor. I know that we've asked you about some sessions for the AJL conference. I was wondering, do you mind doing one more? And he said, oh, yeah, sure, of course. What is it? And I said, would you give the winner speech for the Sidney Taylor Awards? Because you won the Sidney Taylor Award this year. And he was like, no, oh my God, really? So that was really sweet. He was really thrilled that this book in particular won. This is only his second win of all the recognition he's gotten.
His second gold,
Awards. His second gold, and the first gold is
as good as anybody.
Exactly. Were you on the committee that year, Heidi?
No, I think that was after my time.
It's an amazing book. So this is his second win, and he said it just meant so much for this particular book because he felt that this book maybe wouldn't find an audience all on its own, and he felt that the awards would give it the extra boost. And then I also called his illustrator. It turns out Carla and Rich are friends, and both of them were so happy for the other one. Oh, I'm so happy for Rich. Oh, I'm so happy for Carla.
That's adorable.
It was so sweet, and Carla was actually at Grand Central Station selling her artwork as part of a festival. So she was on the phone with me having this, deep conversation about her book while she was serving customers. It was really, really quite a conversation. And she was incredibly sweet and lovely.
All right. What a good story. So let's move on. And please tell us about the winner in the older readers category.
I know I said this on the first category, but I am so excited about the winner for the older category. I mean, really excited. The winner of the older category is Refugee by Alan Gratz. So the book has three major characters that are all children. There's Joseph, who's a Jewish boy in 1930s Nazi Germany. There's Isabel as a Cuban girl in 1994. And there's Mahmoud, who is a Syrian boy in 2015. Each of them is a refugee. They're all very different, but they're all very similar about what it's like to be a refugee and the way the story all ties together and the way all these stories are so timely, even though only one is set very recently. It is so powerful. It is so well written.
So this is a book that's only partially Jewish. How did the committee decide that it was right for the award?
The committee does rule books eligible or ineligible based on their Jewish content level. The Jewish content in this book, even though it's only one character, it is a whole third of the book. It's a very strong, completely Jewish third. And it's just very significant. In fact, when I called the author, Alan Gratz, he was so grateful that a Jewish award committee had recognized this book, even though it was only a third Jewish. And he thanked us for seeing the whole book and recognizing the Jewish content in it.
Okay. So Alan Gratz is a newcomer to the Sidney Taylor Book Awards. When you first called him, did he know what you were talking about?
He knew exactly what the awards were. He said right away, I'm so honored that you recognized it when it's not fully Jewish. And then we had a really lovely talk. He told me about the creation of the book and how it had originally possibly been 3 books, and then he decided to make it 1 book. He was a real pleasure to talk to.
Tell us about the winner in the teen readers category.
All right, so the teen winner is a book called The Librarian of Auschwitz by Antonio Iturbe, and this is also an exciting book. They're all exciting. This book was originally written in Spain. It's translated into English. It's not exactly a biography, but it's based on the true story of a woman named Dita Kraus. And this is a story about a family camp at Auschwitz and a teenager and how she took care of a very small number of books, like guarded them essentially with her life.
I know some folks are going to groan and say, not another Holocaust book. So explain why Holocaust books keep winning the Sidney Taylor Book Award so often.
Oh, this is an age-old question, isn't it? So in this case, this was an excellent Holocaust book. And part of the charge of this committee or any award committee is to find well-written books. the quality of this book really stood out. Why Holocaust books keep winning is because Holocaust books are an enormous segment of the Jewish children's and teen market. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of survivors who are running out of time who want to tell their story, and their children and their grandchildren who really want to tell those stories. Jewish writers, non-Jewish writers who feel this is a weighty and important story, are fascinated with the Holocaust. And there's a lot of people who want to use the Holocaust to educate. And then the other thing that happens is there's been a lot of recent successes. The Boy on the Wooden Box, the Boy in the Striped Pajamas, The Book Thief, that have done really well, have been made into movies, have been commercially successful. A publisher at the end of the day is a business. And so since a lot of these books have been successful, it makes them want to publish more, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think the forces that you named are all true. And the only problem with that is just that it's out of balance. There's nothing wrong with writing plenty of Holocaust books. It's just that we need some other stuff to balance it out. Maybe we're not getting as much of that as we need.
And I think that those of us who are in the Jewish book world see that imbalance. I think that if you're just looking at the big market, you only see one or two Holocaust books and you don't really notice it. If you look at the Sydney Taylor submission pile and you see 60 Holocaust books, you really notice it.
About how many books were actually submitted for the Sydney Taylor Book Award this year?
So actually, I can give you an exact number. It's 140.
And how many do you think were Holocaust books?
And it's a lot. It's 40 to 50%.
Wow.
Easily.
Huh. So just from the statistics you just shared with me, which I think is pretty typical for each year of this award, I think that right there demonstrates that it's out of balance, that there need to be more books about other topics. And so just right now, let's challenge whoever is listening. If you are involved in any capacity in the production of Jewish children's and teen literature, please write something about a topic that is not the Holocaust, because we could really use more variety.
Oh, please. That's absolutely, absolutely true. And the other thing is, it's not just that we have Holocaust, right? Then we have the Inquisition, and then we have, they're always
right,
Jews
and the
are
pogroms,
and the pogroms, and the like. Write something that is maybe uplifting.
It's not about persecution.
Yeah.
The author of the teen winner, Antonio Iturbe, is Spanish. Were you able to speak to him about his gold medal? Does he speak English?
I emailed him. It was close to midnight in Spain when he called me back. So he told me in the email that he didn't really speak English, and I took Spanish in high school. So I think I communicated the fact that he was a winner and not anything beyond that. That phone call was a real delight. Actually, all 3 winner phone calls, or 4, because I also called the illustrator winner for Language of Angels. Each one of them were just special and sweet and so completely excited. And it showed me the power of the Sydney Taylor Awards and how much they meant to each person. It was really, really amazing.
Beautiful. So The Librarian of Auschwitz was written in Spanish and translated into English.
Yeah.
Has it been translated into many other languages? Do you happen to know?
It has been translated into many languages, but the English translation is so special for Dita Kraus, the woman this is based on, because this is the first time her grandchildren have been able to read the book. So it meant a lot to Dita.
So the subject of the book is still alive?
The subject of the book is alive and lives in Israel.
Ah, wonderful. So her grandchildren are English speakers?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. So there were also 8 silver medalists known as Sydney Taylor Honor Books, and there were 12 notable books that were selected by the committee across all 3 age categories. I don't think we should go through every single one of them, because we'll be here all day. But I wanted to invite you to talk about any that you wanted to call out in particular.
Okay. In the younger category, we have Drop by Drop, A Story of Rabbi Akiva by Jacqueline Jules, illustrated by Evgenia Neyberg. Very well-written story about Rabbi Akiva. It was difficult for him to learn how he went from not knowing anything to being this incredibly brilliant man. And then we also have Yafa and Fatima, Shalom Salam, by Fawzia Gilani Williams, with illustrations by Chiara Fedele. It's the two brothers story, which is a very classic story, but it's done with Jewish and Arabic neighbors living side by side.
So that was the younger readers, and then there were some honor books in the older readers category.
Yes. So the honor books in the older category aren't about the Holocaust at all, which is so exciting at this age level. It's really exciting. And so first we have The 6-Day Hero by Tamar Stein, which is about the 6-Day War. And this is just a test, is about a boy having a bar mitzvah, and there's a lot of books about that. But what makes this book unique is it's about a Chinese Jewish boy having a bar mitzvah and kind of struggling with his identity and struggling with his two grandmothers who are battling each other. And Viva Rose is about a girl who lives in El Paso, and she ends up getting kidnapped to Pancho Villa's hideout, which is about as different as it gets. And it's still completely a Jewish book. And so each of these are just this new, fresh perspective.
And I want to point out about Viva Rose, when that was a manuscript before it was even published, it won the Sidney Taylor Manuscript Award.
And that manuscript award helped it get published by Holiday House.
Right.
And I don't think that a lot of people know about the Sidney Taylor Manuscript Award.
Well, let's give it a little plug.
Absolutely. Do you want to tell the underwear story, or do you want me to?
I don't remember the underwear story. You tell it. Go ahead. Maybe I'll remember what you're talking about as you go along.
All right. It's a completely different committee. We both do have the name Sidney Taylor in front of it, but they're two different committees that meet separately. So the story that I've always heard is that Sidney Taylor was writing these stories about her family, and she told them to her daughter Jo. And she took the manuscript and she put them in her underwear drawer, but she never really did anything with them or submitted them to a publisher. And then her husband one day took them out of the underwear drawer and submitted them to Follett, a contest Follett was running. And she won. And that's how we have All of a Kind Family. And so part of this award is to recognize a book in its manuscript form, in its early form, the way that Sidney Taylor's manuscripts were recognized. And the award is given to a middle grade book, so similar to what All of a Kind Family is. So it's not given to a picture book or a young adult book. And it helps books get published. It helps shine a light on books a little earlier in their formation.
That's great. So anybody who's listening who's got a manuscript in their underwear drawer,
take it out
and submit it someplace.
Even if it's in your sock drawer.
Or in your sock drawer. Right. I will post a link to the Manuscript Award and, to all of everything we're talking about. I'll post links at bookoflifepodcast.com. Do you want to talk about the honor books for teen readers?
Okay, so in the teen category, we had Almost Autumn by Marianne Caroon, To Look a Nazi in the Eye by Kathy Kacer with Jordana Leibowitz, and The Girl with the Red Balloon by Catherine Locke. They're all Holocaust books, but they're each completely different. Almost Autumn is about the Holocaust, but it's in Norway, and so it's a very different take on hiding from the Holocaust than we've been seeing as opposed to Poland and Germany, and it has a very different feel. To Look a Nazi in the Eye is based on a true story, and it's Kathy Kacer, who's a well-known Canadian writer. She wrote with Jordana Leibowitz, and it's Jordana's story about going to the war criminal trial of Oskar Groening, who was known as the bookkeeper of Auschwitz, and it was challenging for her to get there. It was in Germany, and what she had to do to get there, what the trial was like, and the testimony is interspersed with the rest of the book. So this is kind of a unique book as well. We don't usually see the war crimes trials, but this one happened relatively recently. The Girl with the Red Balloon is really interesting. It's a time travel fantasy Holocaust book, which is not something I've seen a lot of. These red balloons have magical powers, and there are people that make the red balloons that are essentially magicians. And we start in the present day, and a girl takes hold of a red balloon, and she accidentally time travels back to 1988, East Berlin. She meets people whose job it is to use these magic balloons to help people get over the Berlin Wall. But also, it turns out that her grandfather escaped from the Holocaust using one of these red balloons. It's unusual.
All right, very interesting. I'm just wondering whether there are any particular trends that are emerging out of this entire group of books. And, they're books we haven't even talked about, the notables.
Right.
Because we could be here all day, but all day and all night. But I'm just wondering, if there are particular trends that you're seeing in this year's crop of books.
So one of the trends that we saw, and in fact, two of the notable books represent this, young readers editions. We have Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which is a classic book, which we gave a notable in the teen category. And then we have The Children of Willesden Lane, which is also a young reader, which we gave a notable in the older category. And I'm seeing more and more of those lately. Diversity continues to be a trend. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a trend.
All by herself.
She's her own trend. So last year, I Descent, which is a picture book biography of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, was our winner in the younger category. And this year, we had a notable book, which is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, The Case of RBG versus Inequality by Jonah Winter. Next year, there's a book coming out, which I haven't even seen yet, called No Truth Without Ruth. And this year, we also got...
What a great title.
Isn't it great? And this year, we also got an educational book about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So that's 3 RBG picture books in 3 years. Wow. That's a lot. Plus there's obviously a lot of adult titles about her. So I think she is her own trend. I do believe that. As we've talked about a lot, the Holocaust is a trend.
So a lot of variety.
There was.
It seems like a really international group of winners this year, that many of the authors are from around the world, as well as some of the subject matter. Is that typical?
It is. When you're looking at the American Library Association Awards, Caldecott and the Newbery, those awards are very specifically designed to build up American bodies of children's literature. The author or the illustrator has to be a citizen or resident of the United States. But that's not true with the Sidney Taylor Awards. And so it really opens things up. As I said, we have this Spanish book. We've had books from Israel. The books do have to be in English. Yeah, it really broadens it so much. It's very exciting to have winners from all over the world. And it's not unusual. It does happen every year.
Okay. And another difference between the Sidney Taylor Awards and some other ethnic awards that I wanted to just point out is that it's not an Own Voices award, #Own Voices. It's not an Own Voices award. The winners do not have to be Jewish themselves. It's the content of the books has to be Jewish.
Right. And the content of the books have to be accurate and well-researched. But yeah, like the Coretta Scott King and the Pura Belpré Awards.
And those, I think they have very good reasons for trying to give more opportunity to writers in those categories.
They do.
But it's interesting that in this case, it's not being done in the same way. So this is actually the 50th anniversary year of the Sidney Taylor Book Awards. It began in 1968. The first winner was The Endless Step by Esther Hautzig, which I think still stands the test of time, and people should go back and read that too, as well as all of the winners from 2018. So, Mazel Tov, Susan, on leading this wonderful committee that has been doing such wonderful work for 50 years and has come up with a great crop of winners this year.
Well, I think we have to thank all the committees for the last 50 years.
Yeah, actually, it probably is hundreds of people if you went back and figured it out. So thank you to 50 years worth of committee work, to all the people over the years who have read so many, must be thousands of books if you add them all up.
Yeah.
And made these evaluations and showcased the best of Jewish children's literature over all of these years so that readers can easily find the books that they are going to love.
Yeah, and for years before I was on the committee, and even now, I use these lists and purchase these books for my library, and I find them incredibly helpful. That the committee has kind of found the cream of the crop for me, and I don't have to read all those Holocaust books and all.
That's right. So it's
just the winning Holocaust.
That's right.
Books.
So it's a great tool for librarians to know what to buy for their libraries. It's a great tool for families to know what books to check out of the libraries or to buy in the bookstore. It's a great tool for teachers to know what books to use in their classroom. So it's great for people to be able to take advantage of all the work that's already been done for them by these hardworking committees, and then everyone else can just reap the benefits.
Exactly. That's one of the goals, of course, right, is to provide recommendations as well as to honor the authors and the illustrators.
Right. And something else that I've always thought is that these books are wonderful bridge builders, because like All of a Kind Family, these are not insider-ish books. These are books that can be enjoyed by anyone, whether you've got any Jewish background knowledge or not. And I think that it's great for non-Jewish readers to read these books and be able to connect with Jewish characters, especially people who might live in an area where they don't get to know a lot of Jewish people in real life. So if you can make friends with these characters, it helps to broaden people's horizons and to build those bridges, even if you're making friends with a character that you might grow to love rather than people that you might meet. So I think it's really great for breaking down prejudices and preventing bias.
Well, and that's exactly what so many people have told us about All of a Kind Family itself, is that was their first Jewish family that they met.
Right. So I'm remembering, I believe it was Linda Sue Park, the author of the Newbery Award-winning book, A Single Shard, and she is Korean American. Yes. But I remember her talking about how, as a child, she read All of a Kind Family, and she connected with it so much that she came downstairs one morning and told her mother, "I'm fasting, it's Yom Kippur." And her mother had to call a Jewish friend and get the mom to get on the phone with young Linda and convince her she was allowed to eat. So, yeah, they definitely connect with people across the spectrum.
Well, last year at our conference, Andrea Davis Pinkney, who is a well-known African-American author and won an honor last year, delivered the most amazing poetic tribute to Sydney Taylor and told how much those books meant to her personally. Sydney Taylor's daughter was in the room for that and was just blown away, and I think we all were. Were you there, Heidi?
Yes, that was beautiful. Andrea Davis Pinkney got an honor for a poem for Peter about Peter the little boy in a snowy day.
Right.
And how Ezra Jack Keats, who many people don't realize was Jewish, came to write that book. And so it's a poetic tribute to the creation of A Snowy Day. It's a beautiful book. And her poem, I think it was called Dear Sydney Taylor, and she delivers poems so beautifully. I mean, if you haven't heard her orate a poem, you should go on YouTube and find her, because it's so moving.
Knocked us all over.
Every few years, the Sydney Taylor Committee chooses someone to receive a Body of Work Award for a career of contributions to Jewish children's literature. And this is one of those years. So tell us about the 2018 winner.
This was really exciting. Oh, there's that word again.
You're very excitable, Susan.
I'm so excited. This is the first time we've given this award in 14 years. I am truly excited. So we have often in the past given it to a writer or an illustrator or even a publisher. But this year we decided that Harold Grinspoon and the PJ Library were the obvious choice for this award. They have changed Jewish children's literature so fundamentally. So Heidi, explain about PJ Library.
Listeners know that I now work for PJ Library. So the PJ Library program, which began more than 10 years ago, offers free Jewish children's books, and the books arrive in the mail, no strings attached, and they also offer a lot of programming to support families engaging in Jewish activities. It's really a Jewish engagement program as much as it is a book program. Go ahead and explain how the committee decided to give the award to such a non-traditional winner.
It's had an enormous impact. One of the ways I can describe it is through my library. I'm a librarian at a synagogue, and when I talk to any parent now, we go over to my picture book display and I say, how about this book or that book? Not only do they know all the books, they own all the books because they've been sent all the books to PJ Library. And when I do a story time with our preschool classes, every kid says, I have that book. I have all those books. They have brought the literature into the community's homes. They've also made it possible for more writers to publish Jewish children's books. A lot more mainstream publishers, a lot more what we call the big five publishers, the big houses like Random House, HarperCollins kind of thing. They have been publishing a lot more Jewish literature than they have in the past. It's created a Jewish children's book renaissance. It has really been a shot in the arm for the entire Jewish children's book industry, and I think they deserve recognition for that.
Awesome. The Sidney Taylor Book Award is the only literary prize that focuses exclusively on Jewish children's books. But other Jewish prizes include children's categories, and as we record, we don't yet know who the winners will be, for example, for the National Jewish Book Awards from the Jewish Book Council. But I do just want to give them a shout out because their announcement will coincide with the Sidney Taylor announcement in January. So listeners, go seek out the National Jewish Book Awards too. And once that information goes public, I will also add that to bookoflifepodcast.com.
Yeah, so they have a younger category and a teen category. And then they have adult fiction category and a Holocaust category and yes. And I do a lot of buying for my library from those awards.
Susan Kusel, mazel tov on a great crop of winners, and thanks so much for speaking with me.
Oh, Heidi, it's just such a pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
If you enjoy the Book of Life podcast, please become a patron at patreon.com/bookoflife. Leave a review on iTunes or a comment on our blog at bookoflifepodcast.com. You can also like our page at facebook.com/bookoflifepodcast. Follow us at twitter.com/bookoflifepod. Email us at bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 561-206-2473. Our background music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.
Okay, Heidi, it's really funny to answer these questions to you, like, who is Sidney Taylor? Like, it's just
because I already
silly,
know.
Right?
But the audience doesn't know.
I know, but it's like...
I'm asking on their behalf.
Okay.
Okay, take a deep breath.
Okay.
Do you need a glass of water?